I think we ought to go ahead and start with the little program. How many of you have actually listened to the webcast from yesterday?
No, I didn't.
Two. Billy, if we start that, will people, when they sign in, will they interrupt it or anything?
No, they'll just come in and see it on their screen. The only reason they'd interrupt is by saying something.
Okay.
They do come in muted, if I'm not mistaken, though, which helps.
Okay. Let's do that, and then maybe there may be some more join us, and then we'll go around the room. I've got a couple of news items that I wanted to talk about, and right now none of our speakers from yesterday are here, but Hayes Brown, the moderator, is here. Hayes, did you want to say anything before we started?
Oh, no, I'm glad to participate and enjoying hearing what everybody's got to say. It was a good program, I thought, and worth listening to.
And you're going to put it on the screen, Billy, and then that'll knock all of us off for the 15 minutes that it plays?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you?
So
Go ahead and do that.
Yes, it's a good time to eat while listening. All right. So you want me to go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay. And of course, everybody can control their own volume. I'll have it set at a certain level here, but you can turn it up or down on your own machine at will. Okay.
Hello and welcome to volume 136 of Capital Ideas Live. In today's issue, we'll discuss the experiences of a new hunter. We'll talk about a hunting app that you may find useful. We'll discuss the changes to the H-2B visa program and how it may affect forest workers. And we'll discuss some tax and estate planning workshops you can attend. This program is brought to you through the generous contribution of Forester Search, a service that makes it easier to connect landowners with consulting foresters. You can access the site through forestersearch.com, or there's a link on this page and you'll be given a roster of consulting foresters who can guide you through the next steps that you'll face as a forest landowner. I'm Hayes Brown with the Alabama Forest Owners Association, and I'll be your host for today's discussion. Robert Tufts is a frequent guest on Capital Ideas Live, and he presents workshops across the state that can cover timber tax and estate planning. So welcome back, Robert.
Well, thank you, Hayes.
I see you have several programs available for landowners. One of them is called the Timber Tax Program. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. I did this program back in 2016 at several locations for tax preparers. And it was interesting, only 5 out of 200 had ever filed a Form T. So although the Form T is optional for occasional timber harvesting, the IRS does require that the taxpayer keep equivalent information. The first request in the IRS Audit Techniques Guide is the Form T. So if you're required to have the information, why not keep it in the IRS-approved format?
Okay, makes sense. What else are you going to cover on the timber tax program?
We're going to discuss whether your timber property is a business, investment, or hobby, which will determine what expenses you may deduct and when. We'll talk about acquiring land and basis allocation, why you should use timber accounts or separately identifiable properties, calculation of depletion allowance, reporting timber sale income, deducting reforestation expenses, and how to handle other miscellaneous expense items.
Okay. When's the program going to be offered, and how long is each program?
I'm currently offering it 3 times, July 23rd, August 11th, and September 17th. It's a 7-hour program, and it's eligible for Category 1 continuing education, both through SAF and the Alabama Board of Registration for Foresters.
Okay. People may ask whether this is a live program or a Zoom.
It is a Zoom program, yes.
Yep. Okay. Now, you also have 2 estate planning programs. Is estate planning for landowners any different from any other taxpayer?
Okay, so first, everyone ought to have an estate plan. It's always more expensive to die without a will than the cost of preparing one. So in the basic estate planning program, I explain the 3 documents you should have in your plan: the advance directive for health care, a power of attorney, and a will. Landowners, though, have an additional concern. So if Dad had 300 acres and 3 children and his will left everything to the children equally, how many acres does each child have? And the answer is 300. To make them equal, they get an undivided 1/3 interest in the entire property. This means they have to jointly agree on the management objectives. And the typical family will end up with 1 or more children interested in the land and 1 or more who live in town and are more interested in a new house. So if the children can't agree, the only remedy is partition, and that usually ends up in a court-ordered sale of the property. So landowners may want to consider using a business entity or a trust to hold the property to prevent partition and also direct the future use of the property.
Okay. Well, thank you, Robert. We've got those dates on the website there, and I hope many will be able to attend that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hayes.
More and more you hear about the satisfaction that you gain from knowing where your food comes from. Kim Martin recently wrote about this in the Quality Deer Management Association magazine. Welcome, Kim.
Hello, thanks for having me.
You're a new hunter, but what made you give hunting a try?
So I grew up in Michigan in a non-hunting family, but we lived in a really small rural community, so it was common. Grew up doing the typical Michigan things, camping, hiking, and as I got older, I was kind of finding my own ways to take adventures and did a lot of backpacking, and the outdoors have always been a special place to me. After I graduated with my degree in food science from Michigan State, I started my career as a food safety inspector with the state of Michigan. So that job gives you a lot of firsthand experiences and where your food's coming from, and that's including meat. I remember one specific day I was doing an inspection of a meat processing facility that also had a kill floor, and the sights and the sounds of the slaughter operation were really just a wake-up call that I was still uncomfortable with the reality of taking a life to feed myself. I always knew that there was kind of a disconnect in my head with the steps that it takes to get the meat onto the retail shelves, but kind of experiencing it close up was different. At that point, I decided that if I was going to be a meat eater, then I would do what I could to get that meat myself.
What challenges did you face when you prepared for your first hunting season?
So after my hunter safety certification, spring turkey seemed like a good place to start. And in the beginning, I felt so overwhelmed by all of the questions I had. I had no hunting experience and no experience handling firearms. I remember at one point I thought, how do I get these turkeys to come to me? And so I did some research, and the thought of like calling in a turkey never even crossed my mind. So that's how much I was completely starting from scratch. I also didn't have any family members to help me guide me along the way or give me advice. So it was intimidating to not have those traditions that a lot of first-time hunters have. And the reality of having to hunt public land was also like heavy on my mind. I recently moved to northern Michigan. I don't have any property. I was new to the area, so I didn't know very many people. So I wasn't really comfortable with trying to make any sort of connections like that. And then the idea of hunting public land I was kind of nervous about. And then the idea of hunting public land as a first-time hunter by myself was also very intimidating.
Well, how did it turn out? What was the results of your first hunt?
So in the end, I wasn't able to get a bird. The week-long season was a lot of mixed emotions. I was excited and nervous, but mostly frustrated. I'm sure if you ask any turkey hunter, they'll probably say the same thing. They can be a challenge, and they're really sneaky. I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be easy, and there was a chance that I was going to end the season without a bird. But in the end, I felt like I learned a lot of lessons. I feel like hunting has given me a deeper respect for sportsmen and sportswomen and for the wildlife that we hunt. Sometimes the first time for anything can be the most difficult and the most intimidating, so I'm really glad I finally took the plunge. And I can say with certainty that I'll continue to hunt and hopefully someday be able to pass those traditions along to other hunters.
Well, thank you, Kim. We appreciate that. Lanford Holloway is the CEO of TerraStride, the company that created HuntStand Pro. It's an app that provides mapping and ownership information, and it's available to AFOA members at a discount. Hello, Lanford.
Hey, thanks for having me.
HuntStand Pro does a lot of things. What are some of the features that you think might be particularly helpful to AFOA members?
It's a great question. There are several things. First and foremost, you can create maps that include all the objects of interest, as we call it, in a particular hunt area. And a hunt area is kind of a term we use in the app. It basically means a map title, so an area in which you hunt, literally. And these types of objects would include things like stands and blinds, roads and trails, property boundaries, feeders, sign-in boards, gates, basically anything that a hunter might care about and that they might need to know where it's located. And then you can share that custom map that you've created with your fellow Hunt Club members. And any changes that anyone makes on the map will be shown to all the members that have access to that map in real time. So you always know where things are. There's no more where's the stand or where's the feeder or where's the trail camera. You can tag all those things. We also have extremely accurate distance and area measurement tools. These are very helpful if you're trying to range a shot or if you're trying to determine how much seed or fertilizer is needed for a food plot, for example. Furthermore, we also provide access to the most comprehensive database of public and private land in the country. No other hunting app even comes close, and we charge a fraction of what some of the other hunting apps do. And finally, we're putting the finishing touches on a stand reservation system, and that'll be out in about a month. And that system will allow our users to reserve stands and, of course, to see, who else has reserved a stand, so who is hunting where. This really helps with club management, and it also provides an added layer of safety for our users.
I know that you started a map printing service recently. What's different about your system?
Well, there are a couple other players that print maps, and without getting too technical, what they all do is they take a screenshot and then kind of blow it off. And that, if you're trying to create a large format print, ends up looking really pixelated and terrible. So we created a process in-house where we can get every bit of image clarity. So we can print a map that's 4 feet by 4 feet, and every inch will be as clear as if you zoomed in as far as you possibly could on your computer or your phone. And so we started this process with the goal to create maps that were at least twice the resolution and half the price of our competitors. And I'm happy to say that we're able to achieve both those things. So once the map is made in HuntStand in the way that I've described above, you can order the map and it'll be on your doorstep in a few days. And we offer our maps in various materials, some of which are great for hanging on the wall, and others, like our canvas map, are great for infield use. All maps are waterproof and fade resistant.
Okay. There's a number of hunting apps on the market. Just in summary, why do you think that HuntStand Pro stands apart?
In short, we understand eastern hunting and lease hunting far better than any other software company that's out there. As I said, there are some other hunting apps, but HuntStand was built from the ground up to be a hunting and land management app. And that means that our software is especially well suited to the kind of hunting that people do in your part of the country.
Okay. Well, thanks, Lanford. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Many forest workers work in the U.S. through the H-2B visa program. There have been some changes in the program in the last few weeks. Deb Hawkins, president of Forest Resources Association, can explain. Welcome, Deb.
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Can you describe first what the H-2B visa program is and why it is important to the forest products industry?
Sure. The H-2B program is important to the industry because public and private forest lands rely heavily on this non-immigrant labor, which is seasonal temporary workers, who come in and provide essential services that help to sustain the health and viability of our nation's forests. In fact, forestry uses about 15% of the 66,000 H-2B workers that are allowed to come in the United States each year. That's the cap that we have to all work in, with a number of different industries that use these workers. And U.S. Forest Service reports that every year, the estimate is that more than 1.6 billion trees are planted on over 2.6 million acres of public and private forest lands across the U.S., which is based on DOL data. We see that that's about 23 states in every, region in the United States. So it's a significant amount of work that they do for us, and they ensure that our trees are planted, seed collection occurs, herbicide application, brush clearing, fire suppression. So just a number of critical work things that need to happen to keep our forests sustainable.
Recently, President Trump issued a proclamation that suspended immigration for a period of time. How does this affect the H-2B forest workers in doing forestry work?
Well, the President's proclamation suspends entry of H-2B guest workers for the remainder of the year. We fought that hard, trying to keep forestry out of that, and we're, kind of waiting to see what might happen. But the impact, if things stay as they are now, the impact will be on the fall plantings season. So the suspension does allow exemption for some essential workers, and there is a category in that, these workers who perform national interest type work are those workers that are necessary to facilitate the immediate and continued economic recovery of the United States. So best case is H-2B workers are included in the criteria that defines workers of national interest and exempted from the suspension. That's what we're hoping for. Guidance will be out shortly, and if that does not occur, and if these forestry workers are looped in, the suspension took place June 24th, and it will stay in place till at least the end of December. So unless U.S. workers are interested in filling these positions, which has not been the case in the past, or other H-2B workers currently in the United States become available, contractors will miss the fall planting season. So that could take several years to catch up. So we know currently contractors are testing the U.S. labor market right now, advertising for jobs, and that's a step they have to do anyway whenever they're looking to bring in non-immigrant labor. And I think this effort is going to be very valuable for us, because we've often shared that the U.S. workers do not want these jobs. And in a pandemic like this with such high unemployment, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And if they do come forward and take the jobs, or if we're faced with the same results that we've seen in the past.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Deb. That's all the time we have for this issue. We appreciate the contributions of Robert Tufts, Kim Martin, Lanford Holloway, and Deb Hawkinson. I spoke with a gentleman who recently purchased a forest property that he described as not very good for tree growing. He explained that the land had other aspects that he found appealing, including a beaver dam. This confused me because I thought beaver dams were bad. They drown your trees, make it impossible to travel. They provide a haven for snakes, mosquitoes, and other scary things. So how is this a good thing? The answer is that he saw something others didn't. Habitat for forest creatures, both scary and non-scary, an excuse to improve habitat for birds, and the chance to own something that is constantly changing. It's just the process of seeing things from a new perspective. Is this something you have experienced as you get older? What you thought was valueless now becomes valued and cherished? I think we can all identify with this man as he enjoys his new forest land in new ways. On behalf of the Alabama Forest Owners Association, I'm Hayes Brown. Thank you for joining us for this issue of Capital Ideas Live.
Thank you, Hayes.
Okay.
I don't know does anyone have any questions, or we don't have any of the speakers with us. We invited them, but now wait, David West, are you representing? I think he's putting his audio on. Oh, it's Tom Reed, it says here now. anyway, Deb Hawkinson did say somebody might come from the Forest Resources Association tonight, and one of them was a David, but I can't remember his last name. Does anyone have any comments or questions or anything about any of those topics that were brought up? If you don't like Zoom meeting, or you folks are the Zoom people, so you probably would enjoy Robert's classes that he's going to be teaching later this month. Robert's a good teacher, and so if you do want to learn something about taxes, I would certainly recommend that.
Are we going to share the news page as you go over some topics?
Yeah, let's do that then. David, I see David West is still muted. Maybe, I'm not sure if that's the David that's supposed to be calling in from Forest Resources or not. Can you unmute him for a second, Billy?
It's not unmuting.
Okay. Okay, well, that's probably not the same person that I'm thinking of anyway. Let's go ahead and we'll go back to the full screen mode with the news page. We've been putting up news on this news page almost every day for 2 or 3 years at least. And so I wanted to just touch on about 3 or 4 things. The first one I want to touch on, Billy, is the hardest one of all. And it's on May 11th, down about 3 pages down into it. It's quite a ways down in there. But May 11th, I haven't had 20, but I've had somewhat more than 10 calls about this. And we don't usually get much feedback from our members. We've got 8,500 members, but feedback is very seldom. But I've gotten quite a few calls about the county tax maps. It's right in the middle of your screen. County tax maps are available for Alabama counties. One of our board members used it to use the Shelby, I think it was Shelby County map to help list her land available for lease because she was able to show a map of her property. So that one could prove to be pretty useful if you're trying to share something. I helped a girl up in Ohio back a few months ago who was trying to do some research on her parents' property and didn't know where it was. And so we typed in the county map, we typed in her parents' name and it gave us the parcel number, and we clicked on the map and up came a good map of her property. So it was helpful to her in that respect. It may be helpful to you in some other way. But there's several counties that are not common to the other ones. So you may find out that their maps are either in limbo or changing or something. But if you do find that out, I left an email on there so you can send me a correction if you find some map that just is not working right. But the bulk of them are in pretty good shape, and there's only about, I think, maybe 3 different major formats. So if you have land in a couple counties, you may be lucky enough to have where they use the same software. But they're really handy. I've started to use them myself. It's been helpful when somebody tells me that they have land in a certain county and I can look it up quickly and figure out where it's at.
So Lee, if you put your cursor on that blue county tax maps are available on that line, will they come up?
Yeah, well, Billy, go ahead and click on it.
I'm not going to do it right now, but.
No, you can't do it on this screen, but here's what it looks like when you get the list. It's just a list of links. And then you pick your county, and you can see a lot of them are very similar. And so they've used the same software. There's a few of them like Jefferson and Dallas and a few breakout counties that have kind of gone their own way. And so you may have a little bit more of a learning curve, but most of them are pretty similar. Goes all the way through to Winston or whatever's the last one.
So it shows the same information that
well, click on Winston. It's the last one there, Billy.
From the Probate office.
Okay, when you get there, if you're in your house at your desktop, then click on Office or Home PC.
Oh yeah, I've done that. Yeah. I know. This is what I've used before.
And then you just go over and click on Go to Maps.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can type in your name, or if you know your parcel number,
PIN number.
go ahead and click on, type in Smith in the owner, Billy, and I want to show them at the bottom how they can get their own map up. Over here in the owner. No, don't hit search. Go up there and type in Smith up in the owner area. Yeah. Or Johnson's a good name. Go ahead, click on it. Now down at the bottom of the screen, there's all the list of the Johnsons. And over way on the left, there's a little magnifying glass. If you click on that magnifying glass, you'll get a map of whatever parcel that's showing.
And it shows who your neighboring owners are too.
Oh yeah, and you can click on that and get addresses and everything.
All that is public record, as I understand.
It may be taking a second to come up because it should have already come up.
What's this listed under?
Well, we don't have to dwell on that, but it's pretty easy to use. You can type in your own name or a parcel number if you know parcel numbers and stuff like that. I think I helped the Ohio lady actually typed in her parents' name, and somebody else I helped here back a few weeks ago was with the parcel number that they had. So,
I think the quickest thing is the PIN number that's on your tax bill.
Might be, yeah. Okay, well, I don't know if you can back out of that and get back to our news page. Yeah, good. We can go back to the very beginning, Billy, and I can just start from the beginning, but I thought that one might be a little harder because it was way down in there. We can't see a show of hands because we can't see everybody, but for you folks who have tractors, slide down to have fun celebrating the 4th. That's 7-2. Yeah, and there's an article there that this fellow, Phil, whatever his name is, Phil Bancroft wrote. You need to read that article because I've done the same thing he did, and he got run over and hurt pretty bad.
That one almost made me sick reading about all his injuries, so beware.
Yeah.
And
anyway, that if you have a tractor, don't start it while you're standing between the tires.
Huh?
You can do that, you can reach in and turn that key, and that's not a good thing to do. That's what he did. It's worth reading. It's worth scaring somebody about because it's a good story. He did survive. Are there anybody in the group that owns or grows Christmas trees? In case you are one of those or a wannabe Christmas tree grower, the Southern Christmas Tree Association is right underneath that one. And I publish their little newsletter in there every once in a while. They're going to have their annual meeting in August in Gulf Shores. Further down, last time we did a Zoom meeting, we had Adam Maggart as a speaker, but it's open enrollment on 6/23. I just reminding you about that, and if you're, especially you folks from a long ways away, that might be a good thing to take. He's I think going to be a good teacher, and it's like a 6 weeks online course, sort of like the old correspondence courses people used to take. And he has planned to have a follow-up field day when the course is over with sometime next fall. So that's a possibility. Of course, you don't have to go to that, or you don't have to go to any of it for that matter, but I think it might be prove useful to people who are beginning landowners. Right underneath that one is one I call the Kids Project. If you have any kids or grandkids you want to watch a video for 10 minutes with, it starts out, it says Maine Project Learning Tree Facilitator Anna Smith shows how to be a tree detective. But she does a good job. I don't think her science is completely correct, but she's mostly asking questions, not giving answers. but I think she does a good job. It'll certainly be something for people with young children that would benefit from that. Little detective kind of thing. On my next page, and this is the last one I've got, it's it really is a link to the 6/9/20. We did a field day with Bruce Lanier from McKinley and Lanier over in Tuscaloosa, and they did it down in Pickens County. But after it was over with, and I didn't get to go to it, but he sent me his handout material, which was a map and some descriptions of things that he was doing. So you can look at those speaker's notes that he's got there. He planted, he probably didn't, because some of these things were 25 and 30 years old. But his field day was to show you oak and pine plantings intermixed, and some pure oak and stuff like that. So I thought that was a really good one to go to, just because you won't see that very often. What I really was going to that one for is to remind you that we're going to have a meeting in Sumter County next week on the 15th, the day after the primary election or primary runoffs. And then on the 20th, and that was with Larry Gibson in Sumter County, I believe it is. And then on the 22nd, we're going to go to Tallapoosa County, and Jack Fillingham and maybe one or two other foresters from Sizemore and Sizemore is going to put on a program over there. Both of those will be good. Larry's a good field day visitor. So, oh, okay, there they are. That's it. That's on our main homepage, AFOA.org.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Hey, Choctaw.
Yeah, Choctaw is next fall, though, I think, which isn't very far away. Well, that's what I have for our program tonight. And typically at these meetings, we ask everybody to tell where their land's located. So maybe we can go back to the screen, full screen, or the gallery screen, Billy. Tom, we can see your face now. I don't know if he's hearing us or not.
He's on mute.
Okay. Tom, in the lower left-hand corner of my screen, there's a mute button that you can undo if you want to talk. I don't know if it's in the lower left-hand corner of your screen or not. But let's go ahead and go. I'll start out. Our land is mostly located in Talladega County. We just bought 80 acres with a beaver pond on it just a few days ago, Hayes. And Hayes is an attorney and a forester too. And he helped, I don't know if he calls himself a forester. He quickly moved on to a different profession, but he helped us with our closing on that property. Is it Mr. Lyon? I don't know if you, go ahead and tell us where your land's located.
Yes, sir. I'm Ike Lyon. Our land is in Lowndes County next door. It's a small farm, and we thinned pines last summer that had been planted in 2000 and 2002. It's prairie soil, and it grows kind of slow.
The Jurgens have dropped off the screen for a second. Keith Towles, can you tell us anything about your land?
Yes, sir. I have timberland in Coffee County.
Okay. Mary?
Mine is in Choctaw County.
Oh, there. Okay. The Jurgens are back. I don't know who AFOA 2020 is. I thought that was them. Go ahead, Bill, if you can talk. Your mute's on right now, though. If you press your space bar, I think you'll be able to talk. The space bar on the keyboard. Peggy, you want to go ahead and tell us where your land's located?
Yeah, my land is in Lawrence County, North Alabama.
Okay. And you're from North Carolina, right?
And I'm from North Carolina. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sitting
You're
here
one of the-
Pinehurst, North Carolina.
Now, Keith, are you from Texas?
Yes, I am. I live near Dallas, Texas.
Okay. The reason we did this extra Zoom meeting was because you guys said good things about it last time we did this. And so, but I'm surprised we have less people tonight than we had the last time. Hayes, you want to say where your land's located?
He's muted.
Oh, you're muted, Hayes. Press your space bar. Press your space bar on your keyboard. There you go. No, hold it down.
Hold it down. How about that?
Yeah, just hold it like a radio.
I learned a new trick today. Thanks, Lee. My name's Hayes Brown. I have land in Bibb, Blunt, Coleman, DeKalb, Marion, Morgan, and Perry, and some other places now. Sounds like a tornado drill.
Wow.
I think so. But the latest thing that I got was in Perry County, and I got that because the soils are so good down there, and I enjoy being down there. So.
Thank you. Billy?
I have some land in Marion County, about 30 acres or slightly less than that I never get to see.
Is it Pocopanis?
Actually, it's Pocopani.
Okay.
I've got to go in and edit that. My name's Jerry Pocopani, and I live in Huntsville, Alabama, but I've got some land over in Lamar County.
Tom, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can. And I also have property in Lamar County.
Lamar, okay. Trip?
There we go. Hey, yeah, I'm in Orlando, Florida, and have timberland in Perry, Marengo, and Dallas County.
Okay, so we've got a couple with Perry. Okay, that's great. David, we can't see you, but if you can talk, go ahead and tell us.
Okay, I'm sitting in for Deb Hawkinson. I work for the FRA. I'm the Southwide Region Manager for FRA.
Oh, okay.
And,
okay,
and
well,
my timberland is in Mississippi. So,
okay, good. I don't know if anybody had any questions, but he
I'm quite familiar with Lamar County. I used to be the procurement manager at the Millport Mill, and warehouses just spent a lot of money upgrading that mill, so that should be good for the landowners in the Lamar County area.
I don't know if everybody understood him. If anybody wants to ask him a question, I was probably talking and covering him up. Did anybody have a question about that H-2B worker? We're not going to do any tree planting this year, but we did a couple of years ago. I never got to see the workers, so I don't know if they were immigrant workers or not. One of the terminologies that you guys use is non-immigrant labor, and that sounds kind of strange because I always thought that the Mexicans and Guatemalans and guys like that were immigrant labor. Is that just a technical term, David?
Yeah, well, the H-2B workers are not immigrants; they're migrant labor, in that they go back. So they're not coming here to stay. So that's the difference.
Right. I know a friend of mine has been running a crew of planting, a planting crew for I think 30 some years, and he's had some of those guys come and go every year for 30 years. So they're pretty stable people.
Yeah, well, back in the day when I was planting trees on a regular basis, I used the same people every year, but they don't come here to live permanently. They come and they plant trees and they leave. So that's the H-2B worker. They're migrants, not immigrants.
Okay, good. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
David, could I ask you something about that topic? These tree planters, they're necessary, for our business. And you think of the consequences of doing site prep and not being able to get the trees planted. It occurs to me this issue is within the administration, so it doesn't need to be solved by an act of Congress, which would be like getting an act of Congress passed. But I wonder what the mechanism will be. Does anybody know about getting specific industries exempt as being essential industries or something where there's a great impact? And also American workers would not be displaced if forest planting workers were allowed. Does anybody know the mechanism and sort of a timeline for it?
So I am not the expert on that, but history has shown that the American worker will not do that work. And I believe that our focus now is we have got to educate the administration by any means possible to say, guys, you need to give an exemption for tree planters because we've got nurseries with trees in the ground. We got people that have spent money on site prep, and there's millions of dollars, not to mention the sustainability, the ongoing sustainability of our forest. That because every year we plant what, a third of our productive land every year if you figure a 30-year rotation. And so it's all about educating the administration on what they've done now. They need to understand the consequences of it, and it's difficult. I mean, we spent a lot of effort and time prior to his announcement to try to get an exemption for these people, and it didn't work. So we've got to double down and educate people on this.
As you pointed out, if the problem is illegal immigration, this is really not that population. It's a worker who's coming and going and playing by the rules. So they're following all the rules to get into work. So it's just an important and useful distinction to make. So I'm hoping in the next couple of months we'll see some movement because planting season is coming. And the time to fix this problem is right now. I don't think we can wait much longer.
No, you are correct. And I think any connections you have with your legislators, representatives, or whatever, your voice needs to be heard. Because we need to educate people on what this really means. Because at this point, it's devastating for the industry.
I think you're right. And also, if your congressperson is a Republican and possibly a Trump supporter, they may be reluctant to go to bat for this issue because it's one of the administration's priorities. But it's going to be important, I think, to put as much pressure as you could on your member of Congress and explain to them what's at stake. This is not just about an industry, but this is about landowners, forest landowners who have to plant. These are people that have, I call them 98.5 people. Isn't that your temperature? Isn't that what it is? Or is that an FM radio station? I can't remember. But these are real live people that it's not only just an industry. These are people who depend on these trees getting planted by people who are playing by the rules. So anyway, I hope there'll be some opportunities, for people to contact their member of Congress to see if they would be willing to try to find some way of accommodating these workers. They're essential as well.
Yeah, and I think each of you should continue to kind of monitor what we have on our website about what we're doing towards that, because it is a very high priority for us right now.
How many are we talking about, roughly?
How many what?
How many H-2B workers are tree planters that come in? Just curious.
Let's see. I think in the presentation earlier, the number was, I think there's a 66,000 people, and we use 15% of them. So we're looking at, hang on, 66,000 times 0.15 is 99, let's call it 10,000. 10,000 people that plant trees.
It's crazy to me that no American workers. It just sounds as odd as it sounds. That don't want that temporary job.
Well, the problem with that is that these workers, they work across multiple states. So the American worker, not only do they not want to do it, it's that, you know, they're going to be in Arkansas today and Alabama tomorrow. And so they have to move around, you know, during the planting season. And there were some numbers from the UK, and it's similar work. And they have to, and actually the people in the U.S. have to, offer these jobs to the U.S. Part of the process is that you have to say, hey, we need this work done. And so U.S. people have the opportunity to do this work. In the UK, they had, I think, 50,000 people applied to possibly do this work, and like 15 people actually did it. People are, they're just not going to do the work. Okay.
I think the minimum wage for that they have to advertise is something like $20 or more an hour too. So it's not bad pay at all.
Yeah, state by state it changes as far as what the rates are. But I talked to a tree planter out of Arkansas, and it's like $20 an hour that the rate is, and but people still won't do it. I mean, I've planted trees. I get it. I don't want to do it either. Okay, it's tough, hard work. So
where is it advertised at? Do you know?
I can't answer that question. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, we've done all the things that we do when we go around the room. We've covered our news subject. We've played the program to everybody. At this point, what we usually do is say, well, does anyone have an issue that you want to bring up that is near and dear to you in your own local area or wherever your land is located? Somebody usually pops up with a question about something that's going on in their part of the world. We're an awfully small group, so it'll be a little hard to keep this going, but we can at least ask that question to see if we can get that started. You're muted, Mary.
Oh.
This is going to sound trivial to you big landowners and property owners. Anyway, down in Choctaw County, there's a little plot where over 100 years ago, my granddaddy planted a pecan orchard. And I don't know how many trees were in the part that I remember from a child, but right now, after I was able to get somebody to come clear out the underbrush so that I could actually get to it to fertilize my trees, there's 6 that they're still green. I mean, they're still living. They're not dead after 100 years. It's been a while since I've gotten any pecans from them, but frankly, I've just neglected them for 20 years, probably at least. But anyway, I consulted one of the Extension Service Auburn people here in Jefferson County, and Sally Lee told me what I call the recipe, the 10-10-10 or 13-13-13 plus zinc sulfate, which pecans seem to like. So I have applied that around these trees, and she reminded me that pecan trees don't bear every year, just almost by definition. So I'm not holding my breath, but does anybody deal with pecan trees and know how often I might expect them to give me some pecans? I call it my pandemic pecan project.
We don't have an orchard, but we have just 7 acres on our home plot where our home is, and we have over 20 trees on that 7 acres. And they're all different kinds. It wasn't an orchard. I think they've just been planted, some volunteer or whatever. We have everything. We have a few Stewarts, mostly seedlings, but you can kind of count on every other year.
Okay.
But I will say and we were in the same situation. My mom had lived here, and, as she got older and poor health, the trees kind of weren't ever fertilized. And so when we bought the home site, my husband started fertilizing them, and they did do better. But I will say for the past, maybe out of those 20 trees, the past 2 years, I've probably gotten 100 pounds. And then I had 1 year when I didn't get hardly any at all, like not even a bucket. I mean, I don't know. A lot of it depends on the rain and all this other stuff. But then 1 year I got like 500 pounds. I mean, we cracked 100 and gave them for gifts and for Christmas, and I sold the rest.
Well,
So you never know.
Well, last Christmas when I was looking for pecans to cook with and couldn't find any that were not just astronomical, that kind of set me on to getting back. And I joke when I call 6 trees an orchard, it's not really a orchard.
It is. You could, I mean, if they really bear, you could get several hundred pounds just off those. And I mean, for us, I take mine to a little local farm store, and they crack them for what?
It's cheap, and you produce
Like
them.
20 cents a pound, 25 cents a pound. They crack them, and they come out, a lot of holes, a lot of pieces, and I take them and freeze them, and they'll tell you they'll last just a year in the freezer. But thank goodness I put a whole bunch up in the freezer, and I'm still using them from a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
when you cook them, they're fine.
Yeah.
One of our members, Bobbie Jennings, down in Tallapoosa County, he has a little shop along the highway in Dadeville, and he sells pecans that I think he buys them from people and maybe picks some from his own property. But he's got, I don't know, 1,000 acres of forest land as well. But if you're interested, call our office and get Bobbie's phone number. He's fun to talk to.
Well, I'm sort of having fun with it. Of course, Choctaw County is 180 miles from my home here in Homewood in Birmingham. But I am going down there this weekend, and I'll see how they're greening up after all the fertilizer I put in April and May.
I think you're supposed to give them a little bit of a shot of extra nitrogen in the winter, because they need to have a certain amount of growth on the stems to properly produce their flowers or something. I remember reading about that at one time.
Nitrogen in the winter. Okay.
Yeah, but
Mary, you really need to fertilize in February.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Sally Lee here, and then there was on the Auburn Extension website, there was another kind of the same recipe that she gave me. It seems like April was what they were saying. I was late April doing it, but you say February?
Yes.
Okay. Next February, I'll.
Do you think
Sally's an expert? You went to the right person, I think. She may not personally be an expert.
I have some. I made a stop on the way home.
Are the trees too old?
Oh, Priester's pecans. Oh, yeah.
They're wonderful.
Somebody said the reason I had such trouble last Christmas finding any, apparently in Alabama, and I don't know, maybe Georgia. Anyway, it was a poor pecan year generally, apparently.
Yes. And a lot of the ones you buy, one time I didn't have any, and I just picked up a bag at the store to make a sweet potato casserole with the pecan topping stuff on it. And I tell you, I wanted to throw it out, because if you're used to having your own kind of fresh pecans, those aren't what you buy in the grocery store, aren't very good. But now you can get them from Priesters in bulk for cooking too.
Yeah.
I have a friend that her husband has the Priesters business, and so you can buy bulk for cooking if you have to. But
I know Lee will probably want to move on with another subject and give somebody else a turn, but because I don't really remember what the varieties are, I'll be interested in seeing which, because I know they're not all the same pecan. I remember that from my childhood, that some are the long, kind of narrow kind, and some are fatter.
I got the newsletter from F&W Forestry Services just a few minutes before we started tonight, and I should have had it pulled up on my iPad screen, but I'll put it up on the news tomorrow. And if you get a chance, you may want to read it. It's pretty depressing. He's comparing the sword of Damocles to what we landowners are living under right now. And they're starting, as even though their normal business is to sell stumpage as a consulting forestry company and make money doing that, he's starting to look at carbon credits as maybe something that'll save him and save his clients. Kind of an interesting turn of events. But Hayes, I don't know if I should do this, but may I recognize you as the president of the Forest Landowners Association?
I'm the incoming president, so
incoming, okay.
But I think in a year or so that might be my.
And David, I didn't say thank you for you coming tonight, but we do appreciate you joining us, and tell Deb thanks for letting you know about it, and we appreciate your answering questions too.
Oh, glad to do it. Anytime you need us, just let us know.
Well, this, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up unless somebody has some other question or a comment or a statement, whatever.